Yeah, it's been a ride.
Hi, I'm Nefta. I'm going to talk about vocalics or paralanguage. We need to define what are vocalics and or what is paralanguage. Paralanguage is the way you express yourself through the voice. So the voice has different vocal properties, and some of them are accent, pitch, inflection, rate, stress or emphasis, tone, pausing, volume, pronunciation, vocal quality, or fillers. Let us give an example. Hola amor, ¿cómo estás?
Bien,
Oye, ¿qué crees? Unas amigas me invitaron a una fiesta.
¿y vas a ir?
Pues no sé, es que pensaba invitarte.
Pues si quieres vamos.
As you notice, hearing our voices, we express some emotion, and that is vocalics.
The environment in a typical house of Mexico is organized is that the first thing that someone who is a visitor is the living room that generally have some sofas so they can meet and talk about different topics that that makes them feel comfortable about this. Also the TV. Another thing that generally is near is the kitchen because a characteristic that distinguishes to the Mexican people is that we try to make feel the visitors as they were in their own house. Also, in the living rooms, there are a lot of photos which show the family, showing them that they are close to them. It means that they are a man or woman of the family. Also, having a lot of snacks in the house, especially in the kitchen if they have small children.
Well, now let's talk about artifacts or clothing. The material culture that is how we live, what we carry with us, and how we dress have been traditional focus of anthropology and ethnology. This is important because in Mexico, the artifacts or maybe the clothing or the belongings are part of our representation in front of someone. Because if we have an important meeting or maybe a dinner with a family, a not verbal communication type or form is to dress well because there is a fact that change left in a phone booth was returned to well-dressed people 77% of the time, and poorly dressed people only 38% of the time. In Mexico, we don't discriminate for the clothes, but when you have an important event, you have to dress well because in a non-communication sense, you are proving that you care about that meeting or that dinner because several studies show that fancy suits, uniforms, and high status clothing are related to high rates of acceptance. And it's clear because in Mexico, when you see a man or a woman in a dress or a man in a suit, it show up the importance that he gives to his meeting to make himself like be happy to represent it with the other friends or family.
Kinesics is the interpretation of body motion, communications such as facial expressions and gestures. The components that are included in nonverbal communication, such as gestures that appear when a person has more difficulty expressing what he wants to say, or when it is difficult for him to be understood for his interlocutor. The more we need the attention of the other, the more the intensity of both expressions increases, and so the gestures become wider. Paralanguage is the set of characteristics of the nonverbal qualities of the voice, such as vocalizations, certain non-linguistic sounds, such as laughter, yawning, crying, grunting, certain distortions and imperfections of speech, such as sudden pauses and repetitions, momentary silences that we use consciously or unconsciously to support or contradict verbal signs, kinetic, proxemic. Proxemics is the study of how people use space, personal and or social, to communicate. By space, we understand the physical aspect of the place of the distance to speak.
In body language, the chronemics refers to the perception or the value that people give to the time. In the perception is the punctuality, the disposition of weight some people or someone, and the time you interact with the other people. Also, it can reflect your personality. And in Mexico, the crononymics aren't good because, for example, if someone says, "I'll be there in 5 minutes," well, it's probably that he or she is at more than 5 minutes from the place he or she is going to meet with the other people.
Proxemics. Proxemics is a term referred to the perception we all have about our physical space and our use of it, whether in the intimate, personal, social, or public scope. It's a nonverbal way of communication while interacting with other people. Mexico, as a Latin American country, possesses a culture in which the interaction distance is usually short. We tend to be so familiar and intimate, even in public or social circumstances. We feel more comfortable when we keep short distances, like we love hugging and kissing our friends and family just to say hello, for instance.
Yeah. It's been a ride. I guess I had to go to that place.